now I've been sort of filming this as a general kind of both of the models, this one and this one, but I'm gonna have to split off now because everything now starts to get different. So as you can see, I've done the black highlighting and I've sprayed the initial coat of green on everything. I've decided to go for interior green. I've spent about an hour online doing some research, and although I thought I'd read somewhere that this area would be zinc chromate yellow, all the pictures I'm finding show green. Certainly there is a video on YouTube in the factory where they're building one, and it's definitely green, it's not yellow. So it does say that the description I've got about the colours, it does say that the engine bay could be yellow or green, so maybe I'll do the engine bay yellow just to add a bit of difference. I've also got an image of one being worked on wartime with what looks like yellow, not green, so I think I'll do that and maybe put some green bits in the yellow bay, perhaps a couple of the tanks or something, so just sort of break it all up and make it look a bit interesting. But with the FAA one, with this one, it's not really going to matter because it's going to be pretty much closed up. So what I've got to do now, I know what you're all saying, oh my god, the wheelbase should be the colour of the underside of the vehicle, of the truck. What I talk about, of the aircraft, yes, I know, before you go shooting away. What I'm doing, as you know, I've made up these blanking plates to make it look like it's got fuel tanks in there. And what I intend to do, this would have been built as a green assembly, I think, and then painted with the undercarriage cut, the underside colour. So my intention is, I'm not sure whether to mask it all up all neatly and have this bulkhead here painted, or this rib painted the underside colour, and have this one green, just to add a bit of interest, or even like paint it and let the overspray go on. It's like this here would have been the underside colour, but this here behind it would have been green. So I just really want it to sort of have a bit of interest and not all just be one colour. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm trying to think about how to go about that. I don't know. And I'm also going to say this in both the videos. This engine, a lot of people have been asking about the resin sensor core. The resin kit I've ordered, the silicone I've ordered, should I say, should have arrived on Friday and it didn't. So today is Sunday, so hopefully it'll come tomorrow. So hopefully I will have one or two of these made for Wednesday and ready to go out. So all being well, the mould is done, the master's done, it's all just sat there. Not the mould casing is done. It's literally as soon as it arrives I can pour the silicone, there's nothing else to do. So I'm waiting for that to come now. So and there's one other thing with this engine, you know, I did these, I did a video earlier today about making up the induction ring separately. I've discovered, good idea, 1.6mm drill, and drill out the holes in the back of the cylinder where the where these induction pipes go. It all fits together so much nicer if you do that. So, and also I've noticed that on some of them, like for example on this one, the intake is pushing the push rod out of line, so you just need to shave a bit off the side of the push rod or sand the side of the intake down. You know, if you're going for an exposed engine and it's going to be highly visible, then you know it's going to look awful if these push rods are all just sat over to one side. So there we go, that's that. I need to get this painted in the sky now. So we'll go for there, and obviously somebody's just dared to walk past the house. How dare they? And by the way, this was painted with the Guns zinc chromate type 1. It's different, it's a bit different than the interior green colour. Where's my cockpit? Here's the cockpit, and you can see it's a bit of a different shade, so it's all adding a bit more interest. And also you'll see here I've let the grey come through in areas just to brighten it up. You know, it's all about artistic license, really. I'm thinking of this, like I said before, and somebody said you're dead right. I see this as a canvas, but when you actually put this together, I think this looks absolutely stunning. You know, people may knock Airfix or whatever, but when you look at the detail inside there, you know, it's really, really nice, and the pre-shading's made some of it pop out a bit. But when it's when I've got the sky on there, and the other thing I'm tending to do is put the paint on very thin and let the green sort of just bleed through. Again, just trying to add some interest, really. And another tip, guys, remember, keep these hooks on the bottom protected with tape. They're going to snap off. They're designed just to catch on something and break off, so keep them protected right the way through your build. So yeah, so my intention is to button all this up paint it and then, or actually work on this back area and then paint it all sky, or I may even paint it all sky first before I button it up. We'll see. In fact, I'm going to have to paint it sky first before I button it up, because I want to put those fuel tank plates in and I don't want to get overspray on them. So so yeah, keep watching and I'll hopefully keep you interested. Right, there we go. We've got the sky colour now in the wheelbase. You can see I put Mr. Service around here to fill in this gap. It wasn't a very good fit. Same on that side. So what I've done is actually just painted in this area here. This area here is not painted because when I come to put the wing top section on, I'm going to need to, that's the wrong side, Nige. I'm going to need to do some work, particularly because this is the folded wing version. I want to be able to look in there and see that one nice. I don't want to see those seams and everything. So a bit of Mr. Surface around the edge, some work in those seams, probably put some plastic hardener and then chop it off, and Mr. Surface around there as well. Get all this looking like it's one. I may also cut these pipes off here and replace them with lead. We'll see. But yeah, basically the idea was to get this in and have some green showing through, and that's what I've achieved. There's a small amount of green showing through, and also what I've done, I've made these blanking plates, as you know. If you've seen my US Navy version, then you've seen all this before. Rather than looking and just see nothing, I've made these so it looks like there's something in there, and there's actually, in reality, there's a fuel tank in there, and I think 2 fuel tanks. So when you look in, that's what you'll see. Rather than just seeing fresh air, you'll see the black in the background, which just looks like there's something in there. But yeah, I mean, that little bit of pipe detail there has made this area pop, but on the whole, Airfix have done a grand job. I think this just looks wonderful, this area, and can't wait to see it all done on the fuselage sat there. It's going to look really nice, and then I'll do some work around here as well. So there we go. I'll get this all together and then I'll come back when I'm doing some work around here. And there we are. That's the wing section glued up. I've only glued the centre section here. Let that go hard and then I can pull the rest around and make it fit. Got pegs on the outside just to make sure it all stays parallel. If you've seen my US Navy build, you will see right at the end of part 10 I talk about a cock-up I made, and basically you need to be very careful. Don't put these parts in, these supports for the flaps. They tell you to, let me get the instructions. Here we go. They tell you to fit them in step 61, which I've done, and then you do a lot more work, and by the time you come to fit the upper wing, it's all gone hard. This one wasn't so bad. The other one where I've used the flaps down, they were all over the place. So they've got location inside here. They've got slots that they go in and everything, but unfortunately, whether it was me or whether it was the parts, I don't know, but I also had them sort of like so that when I looked at the back of the wing like this, they wouldn't have held the flap straight. It would have been on an angle, and also 1 or 2 of them were up, so it stopped the wing coming down properly. So my suggestions, I'm lucky I've got 2 kits, so I had a spare set of both, because this one's going to be flaps up because it's folded wing, this one's going to be flaps down, the US Navy, because it's going to be everything open. So luckily I had a spare set of flaps, so I was able to take these out. I basically soaked them in liquid cement, played with them and pulled them out. Unfortunately, because the plastic is so soft, they sort of tended to leave a bit of them in the slots, so I had to clean out the slots a bit. But if you're doing like a Hasegawa or perhaps a Tamiya kit, if you do put something in wrong, soak it in liquid cement, let it get into the joint, just play with it a little bit, and it probably will just pop apart. So my suggestion is to not glue the rear of the wing now, get it all together, and then you can slot them in and then glue the wing down and it will hold them in place. That's my suggestion for doing them anyway. So now I've got both wing sections now that both don't have these in, and they're both glued up in the middle and drying. So that's about that at the moment. What are we going to do next? Okay, now if you remember when I did my last segment on this, we talked about these flap actuators here, these parts here, and basically how they when you fit them at this stage, it's very difficult to get them all level and everything. So if you fit them now at this stage, it's a piece of, almost swore then, it's a cinch because it's a piece of cake is what I meant to say, because when you squeeze it together they all line up. So that's what I'm going to do. So they were in here, I cut them out, so I've got new ones. Luckily I've got 2 kits, so I've got a set of spares, so I can sort of just, let's have a look and see how they go. So P1 is on the port side on the inboard, so this one's just going to slot in there, and I can basically push that into its slot like so, bring the wing together, and you can see it just fits and it falls in the correct angle and the correct position. And I need to make sure I haven't got too much glue in the bottom of there, or remaining residual glue from where the old one was in there. What I can actually do is just take a bit off the bottom of this, because there's going to be residual glue in there, isn't there? So I'll take a little bit off the bottom of all of them anyway. And we'll get this trailing edge glue together. So this, what I'll do, I'll put P2 in first. So where's P2? So P2 is going to go in first, and that's just going to slot in there like that. And what I'll do is I'll put a small drop of cement on there, down in there, just to hold it in place. I don't think I've got any on there then. Just to attempt to hold it in place so it doesn't fall out. Okay, and then what I can do is, I'm going to have to go in there now. I'm going to have to use an ordinary paintbrush. Just get in there and put some glue on the base, because otherwise once the other one's in, you can't get to it. So now I want P1, that's P1. So I can just slot that in there, hold the wing in place, and just put some glue in there. And now they're in there now, and they're in the correct position, and they're level and everything, as you can see. So I haven't got any problems. Now I've still got, oh no, it does go down. I thought I had a gap there, but it's because I was holding it. If you hold it too far back, it just oozes out, or lifts up on the trailing edge, shall I say. So what I can do now, I think I should be able to hold this together with clothes pegs over there. One on that side as well. Yeah, and then I can put some I can run some extra thin into this joint here. Need quite a lot in there because it's quite a large contact area, guys and ladies. And if you can hear a buzzing in the background, it's not my microphone, it's not my phone, it's the fan. It's very muggy here today in Gloucester. Today is Friday the 12th of July. I won't put any glue on there yet. I'll clamp all that in place and then I'll glue it. I don't want glue oozing out, as you know. I keep saying if you put the glue in first and then clamp it, it all oozes out and you've got a mess to clean up. So we've got to do some work around these spars and everything, and we'll put some Mr. Surfacer here. You can see I've done all the Mr. Surfacer around here on the front. So yeah, I've actually I'm filming this right now. I have just filmed this bit and said while this glue's dry I'm going to go off and do something else, and this is something else. So I'm kind of working on them both consecutively at the moment, and but keeping the videos separate. So we want S2 is outboard, so we'll get S2 and slot that one in there. Just push it in. I'm going to sand a little bit off the back because something's stopping it going right in. Remember, this has been all done before, and I've had to cut the old parts out and clean up, so basically there could be some residue left. So S2, yeah, S2 is outboard. Let's just put a spot of glue in there to hold it. And then I'm going to come along with my paintbrush and get some glue into the bottom of there. And there we go. So get a peg on there. Hold all these together, and then get plenty of glue in there. I'm not really too worried about this seam because it's going to be covered up by the flaps. However, on the other one we will be very worried about it because it's going to be totally exposed, and that's not touching in the middle, is it? Yeah, I'm not clamping it in the right place. Right, I keep telling you guys, especially for the younger models, the newer modelers, about being careful clamping glue joints, and I've done exactly that. And you can see this is what happens. I had a peg there on a freshly glued joint, and you can see there that the glue has capillated up under the peg and ruined the surface. Now, if this had been up here, I would have been absolutely gutted. But down there, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be seen. The flaps will be up, so it doesn't matter. Thank God. But yeah, you need to be really careful with your clamping when you're using these thin liquid cements. Okay, so just a little word of warning there. The other thing I've noticed on here on this one, the outer edges of the lower wing turn in more, so I've had to sort of bend them out. It may be that they're being pulled in because it all had to be, if you remember, it all had to be so stretched and pulled around to get to fit. So I'll have to do a bit of filler work there. And as I've mentioned in my other video, I think Airfix have made a mistake here. They've got the rivet line here running down to this tube, to this air inlet. It stops and then it starts again here. I'm not really sure what's going on there. I'm not sure. I think that rivet line should come around like that, and that one should perhaps continue on, but then that inspection flap's in the way. I don't know. So I'll have a look at some other pictures. Maybe we'll see what's going on there. Right. If you've seen part 11 of the US Navy Hellcat build, then you would have seen me discussing all of this. And the reason I've done that is because I've had some emails from people who've built the kit and have found issues with getting the wing halves to go together once all this is in here. So what I did in part 11, I just built this up for you just to see basically what the issues were. So go and take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. Basically, what I think I've found is a couple of things really. In the instructions, you have to put these ribs in, and it's 3, 4 and 5, but it's not 3, 4, 5, it's 3, 4, 5. So when I built it, you'll see on the video, I naturally went 3, 4, 5, and then noticed afterwards, luckily, number 4 is slimmer than number 5, because obviously it's starting to go into the trailing edge of the wing. So basically, if you go 3, 4, 5, that could affect the fit of the wing, and people are saying they're having to sand down their gun base to get the wing halves to go together. The other thing I found was on every single one of these parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts, they all go over things. They've got slots in them and they all go over, as you can see. Every single one you need to get in there with a knife and just remove, like in here, just get in there and remove the mold seam, okay? And on some of them you've got to be a bit more aggressive and actually remove a bit more material, and just make sure you get plenty out. Now the beauty of this is there are no exposed ejector pins anywhere. There's one there, and there's also one on this spar here, but there, this is covered up and that one is covered up. So fair play Airfix, thank you very much. No ejector pin marks to be seen here, so that's pretty cool. There are mold seams all over this bottom bay here, which I haven't cleaned up because this is going to be for this FAA version, which is going to be all closed up anyway. So I'll paint it green just in case we can see anything through there, but I'm not going to worry about putting all the ammunition and stuff. I'll keep all that for spares for other kits. I'll have to put the guns in because the guns actually stick out the front, but yeah, really nice, really good. Goes together beautifully. But as I say, you need to make sure you clean those slots. You'll also notice, well, on my kit anyway, the lower wing section is flattened, so basically it needs to be pulled around to form its shape around the ribs. So when you glue the ribs in, make sure you only put glue in the middle, don't put any glue on the ends, because you want it to be able to move around. If you put glue in here, it will set and you won't be able to pull it up. So yeah, same on that spar as well. Sorry, rib. And you'll also see when you put these spars and when you assemble these, they go. This one goes together absolutely fine. It's in 2 halves. Here you go. Here it's G7 and G6. But it's like the slots in the wing, top and bottom, are too thin for the spar to sit in. So if I just show you on this one here, this is a top wing which I'm not going to use because it's so badly distorted. But if you look at this one here, what I've done is sanded it to make it go into that slot. As a standard part, mine would not go into that slot. So what I've done is I've sanded some material from this corner here, only on that raised portion, and then I've sanded all the way back along here just to take away the acute corner, if you like. That would come along like that and like that, and I've just basically sanded it to put a 90-degree chamfer to that edge. That way it just sits in that groove beautifully now, and it goes in there with no problem at all. So if I didn't do that, it wouldn't go in there. And I've done the same on the bottom edge. I've sanded along here and made sure that I've got a chamfered edge down here, so basically it's reducing the width and it will make it fit in that groove just like that. Okay, now when we do this, what we're going to have to do is lots of clamping, and I'm tempted to only glue it on one end, because what I'm worried about is if the glue runs up there, again, I won't be able to form the wing shape. So what I might just do is just glue it here and glue it there and then clamp it all up. So let's get some glue on there now. I'm going to use the quick setting, and because this wing is not going to be shown, I'm not worried about glue oozing out, so I'm not doing my normal sort of clamping it and then apply the glue thing. Okay, so I'm going to get a clamp on here because some of this may be visible, and I'm just going to get some glue in there. There we go, and now I can put some glue, just a small amount, on these spars, on these ribs, sorry, I keep calling them spars, and that'll just hold that in place like that. Now this rear spar, part of this is exposed on the folded wing version. Again, go into these grooves, clean out these. Actually scrape some plastic out the sides if you need to, take some plastic out the bottom, make sure that spar is going down and sitting in the wing and not just sitting on that rib, because you really want it to be sat on both. And again, we need to be careful here, because if we glue this part of the rib to the wing, we won't get our movement. So what we're going to have to do is put some clamps here on the ribs. See if I can get that to go down. And that clamp's not strong enough. That one's gone down absolutely fine. This one doesn't want to go. what I don't want to do is glue it together out of shape. I need a stronger clamp, so here we go. There's one, happens to be one here. And that's pulled it all up beautifully. So again, what we're doing is we're clamping everything together and gluing it together in its clamped state. Okay. Right, so as I said, this is going to be the folded wing, so you're not going to see any of this anyway, so that's why I'm not being too careful with the glue. So there we go. Right, I'm just thinking it might be an idea to put a clamp on here to make sure we're not holding the, you see the leading edge still hasn't pulled up properly, but I'm going to take a chance and put some glue down in here. That's going to help to keep my wing nice and straight and strong. Okay, so now we've got these two parts here. We've got so after that's all assembled and you've done the sanding, you've got it fitting in both grooves, as I say, as I've just shown you, glue it in place. And also one other thing, when you look at it, these sit proud of the ribs. And the reason for that is when you look at the inside surface of the wing, there are slots for the spars, but there are no slots for the ribs. And I've just realised there's one thing I forgot to tell you. If you look at part 11, I've also gone and scraped this front corner off. So where you've got this sharp corner here, what I've done is scraped it off to make it into a 45-degree chamfer, so that it actually sits, the actual spar can sit in there and not foul on the corner, because it leans forward. Whoops, it leans forward at such an angle. Just pick that part up. Right, here we go. So we've got to get those pieces in. Now straight away you'll see an issue here with the wing shape. This rear part here will go in there, okay, and if I have it on the wing, I've got a gap on the spar. If I have it on the spar, I've got a gap on the wing, so I've got to glue it to one or the other and then let it come together after. So I'm just going to put some glue in there because I've noticed that that wants to come apart. So that means I'm going to have to stop the video there and allow that to go off. Okay, so while those spars and everything are setting up and all clamped up, I'm going to get some Mr. Surfacer on here. And you know how much I love my Mr. Surfacer. I've just had to thin this down a bit. It's been so warm. It's just drying out in no time. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some on these joints of these ribs, because I want to make them look like one. I'm going to put some under here. Put plenty on. And then it can all be removed with some alcohol and or some thinners and a cotton bud. I just want to make it all look nice and seamless. I've thinned this a bit too much. I think it's not filling like I want it to. It's just running into the joint. Okay, so there's that there. I could also go over there a bit just in case we want to tart those up a little bit. I'm not sure that we will, because I don't think any of it's going to be seen. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to put some more on that joint there. They're going to take quite some work to get those spars looking good, because obviously you can't use the alcohol because you don't want the joint to remain visible. And that is the thing with using alcohol Mr. Surfacer. It allows you can remove the Mr. Surfacer and it kind of leaves a seam, almost like a seam line behind. There we go. There we are, that's that done. So that could be left now to go off, and then we'll go around with some alcohol tomorrow, or some thinners, and go around and clean that up, and then we'll put some more on these ribs and get them sorted. I'm tempted to leave that gap there because it adds a bit of interest and it'll take a wash quite nicely. No, I'm not. I'm going to put some Mr. Surfacer in it. There we go, and in there as well. Remember guys, it doesn't matter how much you put on. Because you're going to take it off with the alcohol. I'm just going to put some more in that joint there just to fill that one up. Look at the side, yeah, that one's absolutely fine. Needs a bit more in there. And there we go guys. We've finally got our centre section together, and now we're getting it sealed up. And you can see here what we're going to end up with is what looks like a single piece rather than assembly of parts. Alright, and there we go. You can see here now I've got a few clamps on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. This is the actual wing that's all bowed and buckled flat, so that's why it's got so many clamps on it. What I've done is, while the glue is still sort of jelly-like, I've put the wing on. I've clamped all the critical places with the wing in place, and as you can see, I mean, we've got a little gap there that just closes up easily, but all the way around it's all clean, it's all sealed up, fits all lovely. So just goes to show a little bit of care and attention during the assembly, and a bit of sanding here and there, and a bit of plastic removal. It will get you by. And you can see in there, if I use my knife, I use my tweezers as a pointer. If you remember, I removed plastic from here, from this edge on the upper wing, and you can see there how the actual spar is sitting against that chamfer that I've put on there. Okay, so you leave a square corner in there, it affects it, it stops it fitting in there properly. So yeah, Airfix should have done that. They could have easily done that on the mould. So there you go. That's how the wings go together. So this will actually be one of the FAA wings, but not with this upper section because it's all buckled and bent and flattened. And also you can see there that wing spar moulding is coming through. So that might need sanding out. Actually, that might look awful under a coat of paint, especially the gloss sea blue. But you can see, I don't know if you can see it in the light, but you can see that whereas the thin plastic is actually showing through on this side. So, and it does feel like a raised edge, so that might not look good. So there we go. So let's put that down for a minute, and then we'll come back and have a look in the morning. Good morning guys, Saturday morning now. The last little snippet you saw was Friday evening, and I pushed on a little bit last night and did a little bit of work on this, and I've done another bit this morning. First thing, I built up this little wing box. You can see over the page here we've got this little box which is a support structure for the upper area of the wing. As it comes out of the box, it's quite chunky, it's very nice, it's got lovely rivet detail on it, and what I've done is just improve the look of it, or tried to improve the look of it, by thinning the plastic out a bit from behind and then radiusing at the front. So I'll show you how to do that in another video, but basically if you look at the stock parts, I've got the other side out here, you can see the actual parts are quite thick and chunky, and actually I can show you now. All I do is I take a cutter like this, which is a ball-ended cutter, and basically just thin it out from behind, he says. Okay, just not taking too much, just putting like a bit of a radius on, a bit of a chamfer, just to remove some material, just to thin it out from the front, and then do the same on the front side very lightly. Just sort of one little turn. You're just trying to just break the sharp edge. And then I've got some 1200 wet and dry. Don't use anything coarser. It needs to be 1200 or maybe even finer. And I'm just going to roll that into like a cylinder. And if you notice, the end is a bit soft and baggy. And I could just push that in like that, give it a few turns. And there we go, we have our radiused edge. And then just to give it a proper soft edge on this lovely soft plastic, you can get the Tamiya extra thin and just go around the edge like that, and that will just remove any burrs or sharp edges, because in reality that is basically a sheet of probably 1.2 1.5 aluminium, 16-18 gauge, and then it's basically they punch a hole in it, they polish the edge of the hole, and then it's plunged in. So if you were to slice through the middle of that sprue connection point, what you would see is the sheet metal coming along. It's like that. So it needs to be a radius on the front, and it needs to be thinner from behind, because it just looks a bit chunky, particularly if you're doing the wings with the folded, building them with folded wings, because when you look at it, this thing sits here like this, and then your wing is going to be sat like that. So it's extremely visible. It's right in your, in fact, it's one of the first things you see. So it needs to be, sorry, that's the bottom of the wing. It's actually like that. So yeah, what you're seeing is, what you're going to see is that. So it's quite visible in the scheme of things. So that's that little mod there. One other thing, I was playing around last night with fitting this into the upper wing section, and it goes okay on this one, but when you actually start to use the full width wing, I found it was very tight in this area, and did a bit of poking around and experimenting, and what I found was, if you run, what you need to do is take a knife like this one. This is a number 10. It's no good just scraping away with a knife like this, because you might go through. Take a knife like this, and then you can get on this kind of angle like this, okay, and just scrape down, whoops, without going up, and just scrape off some material to widen that slot, because it just gives it that's very tight. And also what I noticed was on here, there's rivets all the way up to the edge, and I think they stop it going in as well. So now that we've got the that done, it makes the whole thing a much nicer fit, he says. So I've got the machine guns in here, I don't want them all to fall out. Something is stopping that going together, and I don't know what it is. It's because I'm over too far this way. There we go. So you can see that you hear that just all clip in, and what you've got now is a lovely joint here. If you put a little bit of pressure on it, you get a lovely joint there, whereas before it was all like really gappy and sort of sticking up and that. So that's something to remember. And also, now that this piece here is on, that's what the problem was. This piece here is the infill panel for the leading edge, and obviously this wing is not designed, it's not got the cutout. This wing's got a cutout, that wing hasn't, so this wing's not designed to take it, so that's why it didn't fit so well. But if I put this one on, you'll see that the fit is, it's not Tamiya, but it's absolutely fine. So yeah, a bit of work required in that area, but out of all the things I did, I took a little bit off here, a little bit off there, did something here, did something there, but out of all the things I did, actually widening that slot was the one that made the difference. So worth bearing in mind, that one, guys. Now Moving on to machine guns, I'm going to do this on camera, having not experimented. Something I have done, if you do some calculations, you know these are 50 cals, so basically we need to drill the barrels out 0.55 millimeters, and that will give us roughly the correct size barrel. So they're in like that. And if you look at the ends of the guns, I'm sure you can see there, they look a lot better than when they're drilled out. The actual parts, the way the guns are made up, let's get that wing out of the way. You can see we've got these end pieces going on the guns here. That saves them having to slide mould the gun barrels, although the actual detail on the end is quite shallow anyway. But if you look, these are the actual ends of the gun barrels as you get them in the box, and you can see we've got huge sprue connector points, and then there's a massive mould seam around that one. They do require a bit of work to get them to look nice. So drill them out, fit them on, get them nice and straight. What I did, little tip for you to get them, because you might be wondering how the hell are you going to get them dead straight. What I did, I glued them on. I let the glue go just for 2 or 3 minutes so it was a bit soft, and then I put them on the bench and just rolled them like that, and it actually made the end barrel go straight. So there's a little tip for you there. Now, the way this is designed, as this is not a knock on Airfix, any manufacturer would have done the same. The way this is designed, you now have to fit these guns before you can assemble the wing. Okay, so with these machine guns in place, you can see that they are sticking out. So they look much better with their barrels drilled and everything, and we've got them made up and we get them fitted in there, glue the top wing on, and then the first thing you do is snap the end of that barrel off. So you may decide you're going to get the aftermarket barrels or whatever. If you do get the aftermarket barrels, what they will do, they will tell you to cut them off at the breech, and then just drill a hole, and there'll be like a pin on the barrel that will go in. Now, that's all well and good if you're having your gun bays open, because what you can do then is fit the breech or not, and then you can, after everything's painted, you could put the breech in and then slide the barrel in after. Okay, if your gun bays are going to be closed and you're not going to see any of this, you're not going to see any of it. All you're going to see is the end of the barrel sticking out. So what I'm going to show you now is how I'm going to do this, and you'll watch me do it on camera. This is how to fit the guns and then be able to refit the barrels afterwards and have them perfectly all lined up and straight and everything, and not all on the cock. Now, as I say, this one here we don't need to touch, but these two here, we want to cut them off. So the problem is, if I cut them off back at the breech and then fit the wing on, I've got to try and get that barrel back in there and find the hole that I've just drilled in the end of the breech, which would only be about 1/2 mil deep. It's not going to happen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark them, and I'm going to cut one here and one here. Okay, and I'm going to mark these inboard center. Okay, so I can now take this out. What I'll do is I'll just do one of them on camera, and then you can see what I mean. Okay, so I'll take this out and I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to use a saw. You could use your nippers. The dog's about to go barking. Sorry about that, guys. Dog had to have a barking fit because another dog outside was barking. So I've cut that off, cut it off at the pen line. What this also enables us to do, if you've got one of these Tamiya drills, then you can put this up in the chuck, like so. Just nip it up, and now we can take a sanding stick, and we can sand our barrel, which is cool. There we go. So that's that done. Right, so now what we can do is glue that in. Okay, so we can put this gun in like so. Okay, so that one's in. Alright, now what I'm going to do, I've got a piece of 3mm plastic rod here, and I've got a 1.8mm drill. I've measured the barrels and they're roughly 1.8mm. And I'm just going to drill down this piece of rod. You could use a piece of sprue, you could use anything. It's not going to be seen, so it doesn't matter what size it is, as long as it's not too tall. The drill is falling apart. Okay, so I've gone in there, what, 4 or 5mm. Just keep turning the tube to make sure that you are staying straight and not coming out the sides. Notice I do this by hand. I don't like to use power tools for stuff like that, because often what happens is it just grabs it and it slashes it round. So it doesn't matter if the hole's not perfectly in the centre. This isn't precision work. This is just making a means to. In fact, we can cut this with a knife. It'd be easier. Just get a knife on there and just go round and cut that off. Okay, so now we've got that there. Just going to put the drill through it just to clean it out, remove any burrs. And now what I can do is I can fit this onto that machine gun barrel like so, and just push it on a couple of millimeters. And then when my wing is all glued together and everything, then I can come along and slot this in into there. Sorry, it'll go in the tube, not on it. So let me glue this in. Let's just put some quick setting on here. Okay, and I'm going to put some quick setting down here. Try and glue this gun in if I can be quick enough. And I'm going to get some. The glue actually, the gun actually sits on a radius at the front and a little peg at the back. So I'll get the gun like that, nice and straight. Get this all nicely aligned. I'm not sure if the front of that gun's gone down. Like I said, guys, this is going to be all closed up, so I'm not fussing too much. And then when we want to come and put our guns back in, it's just a case of trying to get that to go in that hole. For some reason, it doesn't want to go on. It's probably got a burr on it. There we go. Oh, that gun will not glue down. And then so after our wing is built, we can just push that through the hole, find that hole, push it home, job done. Okay, we don't even need to glue it because it will stay in there with friction. So there you go. And that is my suggestion to making those guns removable so you can work on the wing and not have to, you know, risk damaging everything while you're doing it. So I'll get the other one done now and then I'll come back. And there we go, I've done the other one now. So when your wing's all assembled and your seams are all taken care of and everything, you want to fit your guns after the model's all built and painted. Come along, find the hole and just push the barrel in. The same on this one, find the hole, he says. There we go, push the barrel in, job done. So that's my suggestion for dealing with that little issue. And there we go, just label them up now. What I'm assuming is, like engines on bombers, they start from the port side, so it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've numbered these 4 and 5. So I know which ones they are, so they go back in now in the right lengths and everything. And that's it. I just need to glue this gun in. And really it's just put plenty of glue around that and it will hold it in place. It's only so when you look inside the wing you don't see an empty space. You could really keep that gun as a spare, you don't need to put it in. So that's all that done. Now I'm tempted, yeah, I'm not going to bother fitting any of the chutes or anything because you can't see any of it from underneath anyway, so I'm not going to worry about that. There's a hole there, I don't know what it's for. And I also need to look at whether I'm going to put rockets on this one or not. I don't think I am. Bearing in mind this is the Fleet Air arm. So, in fact, I'm going down to the Western Model Show tomorrow probably, so I might speak to some people there and find out if they actually use those rockets on here. I don't think they did. So, we shall see. So, we'll call it a day for that one, guys. That's been part 6 of the FAA Hellcat build. And I've shown you here with the guns how to do it. I've shown you all about this, fitting all this up and everything. Basically, if you haven't already seen, part 11 of the US Navy Hellcat build talks about fitting these gun bays in and what to look for and what I did to make it fit all a bit nicer. And then I moved into this area then and did the wing box and everything in this part. And then we've looked at the machine guns for a closed up wing. Now, I think you would also get away with doing this if you're going to have your wing opened up, because basically you're not going to see those bits of plastic I've just put in. Those bits of white plastic, yeah, they're not visible. So you could actually do that if you wanted to, if you're having the gun bays open as well. So little tip for you there, little money saving tip, rather than going and buying master barrels, because like I say, at the end of the day there's nothing wrong with these ends once they're cleaned up, and you could only really see the barrel of the outboard gun. You can see a little bit of the middle one, but you know, so why spend all that money on aftermarket barrels if you're not going to see them? But what I'll probably do on the other one is something slightly different. So yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for all your brilliant comments. Some of you guys are really generous with your words, and I look forward to seeing you all in part 7, where we'll get these wings together and start to do some proper work.